Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai. Okay, so we'll get going. So, did I share the slide? Where is my slide? Let's see, I think I shared this. So what we have been doing is Isopanishad, the overview of Isopanishad. Just going over because we missed last week. So the first invocation to the first three verses is living in harmony with Ishvara. And we talked about how this book falls under the, where was that? There was I showed you, right? It falls under Shruti. So it's Vedas, right? So Upanishads. So they are, they direct anybody towards bhakti. So they're not like fully about bhakti. That's why Krishna is not explicitly mentioned in this book. And Prabhupada also follows that same trend. He doesn't excessively mention bhakti and Krishna names in the purports. So that is where the this Upanishad is coming from. But Prabhupada specifically wanted to translate it because it has everything. It covers everything. It covers most of the aspects of every aspect of Krishna consciousness in there. Okay, so we're in the first section, living in harmony with Ishvara. Okay, and so just giving you an overview of the first section, that dividing it further. So the invocation was everything is perfect. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashishyate. Purna. Everything is perfect, but everything is perfect only for the purpose it's meant to be for. It's not like you can use a phone to write a book, as I gave an example. You can use it, but it'll be very frustrating. Then mantra one was everything belongs to Ishvara, right? Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagattam jagat tena taktena bhunjita ma gadha kasya svidhanam. Ishavasyam, the Ishavasyam principle, that everything vas resides in Isha. That was the first mantra. And the second mantra, when we read, was that how living in harmony benefits us, right? When we live according to our purpose, then we can go on living for 100 years. There is no problem, right? But so in today's verse, we'll see the opposite of it, that how living in disharmony harms us. That's what we are going to do in today's verse, which is verse number 3. Anybody has any idea, comments, or thoughts what we have done till now? Anything you remember from our last discussion on mantra 2, or anything on your mind before we kick off verse number 3? Hari Bol Prabhu.
One thing I read this a few times, and then just the other day I read it again for our assignment, and the last time I read it, I felt like Prabhupada was really being super intense. I mean, he just didn't take it easy. He just went right directly about everything. Like he said, there's either what is it? A demon.
Mm-hmm.
What's the demon? What's the word for demon?
Asura.
Asura. Yeah, and then what's the other one?
Sura.
Sura. Okay. So then I thought to myself, well, maybe I'm not so aware of exactly what he's trying to mean. What is his definition of a demon, would you say?
Can I answer this question when we kick off this mantra, Prabhu? There is an explanation of it in the purport also. And
and what, mantra 3?
yes, mantra 3.
Okay.
Prabhupada talks about it in the first paragraph. And then I will also,
Yeah, that's fine.
there are a couple of verses in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada has given a very good definition. Yeah, we'll talk about it in detail, Prabhu. Yes, that's one of the topics that's going to be a part of this mantra. And actually, to show you, this, the first paragraph is all about who is a demon in
Okay.
mantra. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So yes, Prabhupada is going to explain that to us. Anything else on anyone's mind before I kick off? If not this.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we also talked about the three ways of the karma. I mean, three different karmas: sakarma, vikarma, and akarma.
Yeah.
So we did talk that what is sakarma, and that is with the done with the injunctions of the scriptures, and vikarma is not following the scriptures. That karma that bind us to the hellish planets, and then this is akarma means that if we are doing in union with giving everything with the Ishavas principle, then it is called akarma. So these were the things also we learned in that.
That's a good point you bring up. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yes, doing karma. And it's a gradual progression. The author is first telling us everything is complete. Second, he's telling us Ishvara is a proprietor of everything. And then he's asking us that please live your life according to the principle that Ishvara is the proprietor of everything. So do your karmas accordingly. And then in this verse that we're going to read today, he's going to tell us that if you don't live your life according to this, what's going to happen to you? Yes. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's just kick off. Let's start this verse. So as I said, it's about what's going to happen if we don't follow the principle. So it says, Asurya namate loka andhena tamsavrta tamste pratyabhigachanti yeke chatma hanojana. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So Asurya, the word Asurya means, Prabhupada translated as meant for Asuras. Asuras are demons. And Prabhupada talks about it in this first part also. Suras are godly person, Asuras are demon. Prabhupada Krishna clearly tells us. And where do they, so they are Asura. So I'll talk about it. Let's just go through the verse first. Chatma Hano. So Atma Hano. So where's that translation? Where's that? Prabhupada is translating it. Cha Atma Hana is the killer of soul. Hana means killer. So somebody who is living a life like an Asura is going to be pushed into where? A place where it is andhena, which is ignorance, and there is tamas, there is darkness. Okay? So what does it mean? What's the difference? So ignorance means that I will not be able to take up if something is provided to me. And tamasa indicates that there is not being much provided to me either. So that's the difference in both these two words. So ignorance is my inherent quality. Tamasa is the quality of the environment surrounding me, right? So the environment is also not favorable, and me myself am ignorant and not favorable. So it's andhena tamsavrta. So and it's covered. So right, it's covered by ignorance and darkness, my whole existence. So I am sent to those planets. If I behave like a asura, so I'm metaphorically a killer of the soul, right? And there's one phrase, yeke. The yeke means whoever he may be. Nobody is immune. Understand that, right? Nobody can say that, oh no, I'll never go there. No, anybody can go there. If we behave like a asura, we will go there. Okay. So that is the verse that we are going to discuss today. Asuryat namate loka andhena tamsavrta tamste pratyabhigachanti yeke chatma hanojana. So this verse is a warning that if one lives in a soul killing way, without awareness of one's spiritual nature, without fulfilling our human responsibilities, we will go into further ignorance. And it's not like a punishment. It's very much like a parent telling a child, if you don't study, you will live in poverty. Your life will be miserable. Right? You will suffer. So that's the way this verse is meant to be. Right? So Vedas are, Prabhupada says that Vedas are like Vedas are knowledge. They're like our parents. They're giving us direction. That, hey, do this. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. Right? So the first paragraph, and where is my PPT? So going back to the presentation, the first paragraph, there are 6 paragraphs in this purport. And so the first paragraph, Prabhupada is going to talk about who's a demon. So let's go through the paragraph quickly and see. A human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras, godly persons. And those who are neglectful of these responsibilities or who have no information of them are called asuras. These two types of human beings are found all over the universe. In the Rig Veda, it is stated that the suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun. So Prabhupada is giving us a definition of who's an asura and a sura. Okay. So the word asura can have many meanings. Okay. If you break it down etymologically, the word asu means breath. And ra, the word ra comes from ramante, enjoy. So asura is one who's enjoying at a sensual level. Right? Just like, because breath is just on a shallow platform. So similarly, so with that analogy, it's saying that you're living on a very shallow platform, your life. So that's an asura. So asura is not just a species, it's a mentality. Okay. You might have heard the word rakshasas. So rakshasas are physically also deformed. They might or might not be asura mentality. Rakshasas are more physically deformed, right? Like Kumbhakaran, Ravana's brother. When Kumbhakaran woke up, or Ravana woke him up to fight the war, he went and told Ravan, don't fight with him. Lord Ram is Bhagwan himself. So he was of a good, but then just out of fidelity for his brother, he went and fought the war and got killed. But so yeah, that's a Rakshasa. But Asura can be is a mentality. Okay. 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks of demoniac characteristics. Right? So the Mahabharata, when it happened, it was between Manava and Manava. It was between humans and humans. There were some Rakshasas, Hidimba, Ghatotkacha and all those. They were Rakshasas, but generally they're mostly humans. Duryodhan didn't have a body of a demon, but he had a mentality of a demon. Right? Demons are considered highly elevated in knowledge, but because they do not use their good intelligence for the service of the Lord, they are called demons. Right? Their behavior is not guided by scriptures, so they don't act properly. Right? So so like in the 16th chapter is Daivi Asura, Daivi Asura Sampad. No, Daivi Asura Vibhag Yogunam. So that's the name of the chapter. So Asura, it talks of Asuras there. Right? We have to be clear what is meant by demoniac. Ramayana is actually, on the other hand, a war between humans and Rakshasas. But Mahabharata was not. Mahabharata had Rakshas, but it was mostly humans. So demoniac doesn't necessarily mean they will have horns and fangs and all that. It's just a mentality thing also. Right? And even in the Asuras also, there are some people who are demoniac mentality, and there are some who are under the influence of demoniac mentality. Right? You might have seen, I remember there was once a devotee, and he told me that he was with he would hang out with impersonalists, and he got this concept that impersonalism is right, but the moment he got connected to Krishna consciousness, his thought of impersonalism vanished. So he was not of a impersonalistic mentality. He was just under the influence of impersonalistic mentality. So there's a slight difference, right? And if let's see some examples, right? So which canto is that? Sixth canto, Hiranyakashipu, right? So let's say Hiranyakashipu. Let me see if I can pull that up. There's a chapter of where Hiranyaksha has died. Okay, so Hiranyaksha is dead, and what does Hiranyakashipu do? Is Hiranyakashipu gives a very good discussion. There's a very good talk on what do you call that? On spirituality. He gives a very good talk on spirituality. I'm pulling it up. I'll show you which chapter. Sixth canto. I think it's the second chapter. Second chapter? Oh no, sixth chapter, second chapter. Which chapter? Is it the seventh? No, it's not the sixth chapter. Sorry, not sixth canto, seventh canto, I think. Yeah, seventh canto, Nrsimhadev is there. So seventh canto, is it the second chapter, I think is there? Oh, am I not sharing my screen? Let me share. Yes, second canto, seventh canto, second chapter. And so there's a verse that I really like. Let me see, where is that verse? Oh yeah, this one, verse number 21. So see, this is a beautiful verse. What analogy he's giving. My dear mother, in a restaurant or place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water, they continue to their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destination. So, he's giving very good philosophy. But is he is a divine person? No, he's a demoniac person. And I think in this purport, if I remember correctly, Prabhupada talks of that. Yeah, although Hiranyakashipu was a demon, he had Vedic knowledge and understanding. Thus, the advice given to his family members was quite sound. The demons are considered highly elevated in knowledge, but because they do not use their good intelligence for the service of the Lord, they are called demons. The demigods, however, are very intelligent to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? And yeah, so Prabhupada is explaining who a demon is here. And then there is the story of Vritasura in the sixth canto, right? So sixth canto, Vritasura is speaking, and so yeah, Vritasura, or if you don't know the story of Vritasura, if I could quickly tell you, the backstory is that Vritasura was Chitraketu in his last life. So Chitraketu he wanted a son. He had many wives, but he didn't have a son. He asked Narad Muni to give him a boon to have a son. Narad Muni warned him that this son of yours is going to become a source of your happiness, but also misery. So his son's name was Harsha Shokha. Harsha is happiness, Shokha is sorrow. So Chitraketu said, "Oh, no problem. I'll deal. What is the maximum pain my child can give me?" But then the child dies. The wives poison him. The wives who got envious that this one wife had a boy, and so they poison the boy, and the boy dies. So then Angira Muni and Narad Muni come, and Chitraketu asks, why did this happen to me? And then Narad Muni and Angira Muni, they give him some knowledge, and then he becomes liberated, and he sees God face to face. Okay, and then he's awarded the power to travel throughout the universe. One day he's traveling, and he sees Mother Parvati sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, and he starts laughing. Not necessarily laughing. I think he just spoke something. That he said something, but then Mother Parvati doesn't like it, and she curses him, and he becomes a demon in his next life. He becomes a Vrittasura. However, from the story of Vrittasura, we can understand, like the old saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. So we can learn that not to judge a person by his external features. Even though Vrittasura was a demon, he was still an exalted bhakti yogi, right? He was able to propound deep transcendental knowledge, even in the midst of fighting for his life. The last four verses of the sixth canto, second chapter. Let me confirm that. Where is it? No, not this one. Where is Vrittasura? Vrittasura's glorious death. 12th chapter it is. 6:12. Oh no. Okay, I don't know. I think there are 4 verses. Where are they? 34. But yeah, there are 4 verses that are quote there, that they are his they're his prayers to the Lord. So, but yeah, they're very beautiful verses. And so he's, even though he's demoniac in nature, but then he was a bhakti yogi. So physically he looks like a demon, but he's not a demon. So what
Yes,
I'm
I found out. Yeah, I found out a little earlier. I didn't get back to you. Who told you that? Who told you that?
okay. So yes, so that's the story of Vrittasura, right? That even though he was a demoniac person, but then he was demoniac. He had a demoniac, visibly a demoniac. He'd been born, has been cursed to be a demon. But then his bhakti yoga that he had done in his past life helped him get liberated, even though he was in a demon body. So that's what is a demon. That's the difference between what we should be looking for in a demon. Who's a demon? Any thoughts on that before I move forward? Everybody clear about who a demon is? Here is my, oh, I'm not sharing my screen. What happened? Everybody okay with that concept of demon? All
Yes.
clear?
Yes.
Okay, that's good, Pro. Okay, you got it.
You know what I was, you know what I first thought though?
Mhm.
I said, demon, you mean like all those devils and guys with horns and all that? And then I started pondering it a little bit more, and I was thinking I have to really analyze what that word is meaning, you know.
Yeah, yes. Demon is more, actually in the 16th chapter, if you read the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the whole chapter is about just qualities, right? Dambha, mana, madanvita, mohad, gita, sadgrahan. All those, they are qualities. Nowhere does Krishna talk about that demons have fangs and horns and all that in 16th chapter. So yeah, so it's more of a mentality rather than a species or a physical appearance. A demoniac is a nature. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts, comments, anybody, before I jump to the next paragraph? All good? Okay. Good.
Okay, I have one question. You mentioned that whoever doesn't follow the injunctions of the scriptures and the God, they are the demons. Are they behave good with the other living entities, or they show their demoniac nature to the other living entities too?
So superficially, you cannot tell who's a demon, right? It's hard to find it out. Duryodhan was very good to Karna, to his brothers probably. Shakuni was very good to his sister, but he was envious of Krishna. So to understand if a person is really so what I'm hinting at is superficially that person might treat others nicely, but the moment you scratch the surface, you see the envy, you see the jealousy and everything. So that's an asuric person. So it just doesn't mean that that person will visibly be acting like a demon. So so to answer your question, yes, to some people that person might be treating them nicely, but as long as that person is favorable for his or her sense gratification, right? But nowadays, right, what happens? Love at first sight and divorce at first fight, right? So it's just superficial. It's very superficial, and that's what Prabhupada is going to explain in the purport later on. We all are living a very superficial life. Down deep, we all have demoniac propensities. You know? But then we as devotees, or at least practicing devotees, we are very consciously trying to push away those demoniac propensities and bring in divine propensities. So Krishna is okay with that. But there are people who are not even trying to bring in divine propensities. Superficially, they might act, oh yeah, everything is good, yeah, nice, and they'll dress nicely and everything looks good. But the moment you scratch the surface, they show their demoniac propensities. Right? That's what happens in this world, right? So how to say it? That's why impersonalism is very bad. We impersonalize everything. For example, in India, the reason we have names for everything in India, trees, rivers, everything, because we have an understanding of a personal aspect. And when there is a personal aspect involved, there is a relationship involved. When there is no personal aspect involved, then that thing becomes a resource. I'll cut the trees, I'll use that. This land is for me, I'll just dig it open, find something for myself. That becomes a resource then. So yeah, superficially it might be hard for us to understand who's a divine or a demoniac person, but down deep, we have to, when you observe them carefully, you will be able to find out that they have demoniac propensities. So yeah, superficially they might be nice, but the moment you scratch the surface, or the moment that other person is no more valuable for my sense gratification, I show my demoniac propensities immediately. Did that help, Mataji? Made sense?
Very much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll talk more about it as we go forward. This whole chapter, this whole verse is about demoniac people and how do they behave. Prabhupada will give some very practical examples. So we'll talk in more detail also. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. And the second one is about Atmaha, right? So so this second one is about killer of the soul, second paragraph. And Prabhupada has very nicely, or very perfectly, brought out a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's talking about it. I think it's 11th canto. Nirdeham Adhyam Sulabham Sudurlabham Plavam Sukalpam Guru Karnadharam Mayanukulena Bhaspateritam Uman Bhavabdim Natarit Satmanaha. So if I can find that verse, I want to show it to everybody. So Prabhupada, he's talking about that verse in this. He's given a translation of that verse in this here. 11:20, 27. No. 11:20, 27. 11:20. It's 11:20. 11th canto, 20th chapter. Oh yeah, 17th verse. I'm not sharing. Let me share my screen. 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse number 17. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. What this means is that we human beings, once we fall into the animal's life, we have to go through the 8.4 million species, and then again we'll get a human birth. So it's obtained by laws of nature, but it's a very rare achievement because it comes once in 8.4 million times. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain, and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds, impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. So here also the word Atmaha is used. So, and in this purport, this purport is not by Prabhupada, this is by disciples of Prabhupada, but this verse is what Prabhupada is quoting in this in the purport of the Isopanishad, verse number 3. So this gives another example of what does the killer of soul mean. I have got a human body, but I'm not taking the guidance of a spiritual master, and I'm not following the instructions of the personality of Godhead, the scriptures, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, to go in the right direction. So technically, I'm just not using my body, human birth, in the right way. So I'm practically, killer of soul means I'm practically killing the spiritual tendency in me, the spiritual inclination in me, the spiritual desire in me. That's what I'm doing. So that's what the word Atmaha means. That's what Prabhupada is explaining. So he is quoting that same verse, that saintly teachers are compared to expert boatmen, facilities are, breeze, there's a breeze. So he's talking about that example as Atmaha, right? So, right. So because technique, okay. So looking at it from a different perspective, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the soul cannot be killed, right? Avinashi tu tadviddhi, yena sarvam idam tatam. That soul is indestructible. But then again, Krishna in the 16th chapter says, Trividham narkasya dvam, dwaram nashanam atmanam, Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobhas, Tasmadetam, Trayam Tyajit. So he's saying Nashanam Atmana. So there the word means degradation of the soul. So if a soul is indestructible, how can it degrade? Is Krishna contradicting himself? No. So here the speech is in a non-literal way, right? So it's not a literal meaning. You don't look at the literal meaning. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in one of the, I think it's in the Adi Leela, Mahaprabhu explains that there is a Mukhya Vritti, that's a direct meaning, and there is a Gauna Vritti, which is the indirect meaning. So here, Krishna is here in this verse, there is an indirect meaning. So killer of soul doesn't mean that the soul actually gets killed. The soul can never be killed. It's just that it's a killer of soul, means killer of spiritual consciousness of the soul, right? For example, when I become lusty, my awareness of me as a soul decreases. So the word Atmaha is a figurative speech, right? The more we get, our mind becomes more and more of sensory pleasures, the less I become aware of myself as a soul. So I am in one way killing that soul, killing the spiritual tendency that I have, right? So that's the that's what Prabhupada is talking about here in this purport, in this section. So killer of soul means that, right? So and this verse that we read, right? Nirdeyam Adhyam, Kulabham Sudurlabham, Plavam Sukalpam, Guru Karana Dharam. Mayanukulena, Anukul means favorable winds, right? So scriptures are like the favorable winds. So when we read scriptures, they give us spiritual thoughts, they give us spiritual desires, spiritual inclinations, and the material things give us opposite winds, right? Go ahead and hear the 24-hour news cycle. You will end up with high blood pressure and anxiety. You know, what's going to happen? Will my 401k be okay tomorrow? Will this world be okay tomorrow? So it creates a completely opposite event, material knowledge. Right? So whenever we read scriptures, we have to understand that scriptures can be in different. You can read them in different ways. So one of them is literally. Okay, what exactly is saying? Abduction of Mother Sita. It happened. It's not like it's a metaphor. No, it happened. It was literal, right? Then another way could be giving us some ethical or moral lessons, right? Like, for example, Mother Sita was attracted to Marichi, the deer, and the Lord Ram ran after the deer. So when I get attracted to material desires, Krishna goes away from me. There's a distance that comes between me and Krishna. So that could be an ethical way of looking at it, right? Metaphorically, you can look at what you read metaphorically also. Prabhupada says that this, well, actually it's Bhakti Vinod Thakur says that, and Prabhupada also talks about in the purports, that the 6 children that were killed of Devaki, Mother Devaki, were the 6 sins, right? Lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, envy, right? What's that? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. 6. Yeah. So there were the 6 children of, they were representing 6 sins. So that's a metaphorical way of looking at it, right? So another way of looking at it metaphorically, when so let's say, Mother Sita was abducted by Ravan. Okay, so when Lord Ram got away from Mother Sita, Ravan came and abducted Mother Sita. Similarly, when our mind or we as soul turn our face away from Krishna, then the mind comes and catches us. So Ravan is the mind, representing the mind. And he catches the soul, catches us. And the mind, what is the mind made up of? 5 Gyanindriyas and 5 Karma Indriyas. Those are the 10 heads of Ravan. So, then the mind traps the soul, right? So similarly, like, Lanka represents the body, and Mother Sita is the soul sitting in that body. So you can look at things metaphorically also. So you have to always be very cautious when you're reading scriptures. You have to intelligently decide, is it literally, is it more of an ethical moral lesson for me, or is it a metaphor that's being given here? When Narad Muni meets Puranjana, and then Narad Muni knew that if I give him the message right away, he will not be able to understand it. So Narad Muni gives him a message through a metaphor. He tells him a story, but the story is very similar as of Puranjana. And Puranjana starts thinking, oh, this looks favorable. This looks similar. This looks something that I've heard before. And then he realizes what Narad Muni is saying. So what I'm talking at length about this concept of Atmaha, because we have to understand that scriptures require some amount of attentiveness and also some introspection. What is being talked about here? How can I understand it better? Okay, so that's the concept of Atmaha, killer of the soul, which Prabhupada is explaining in the second paragraph. Okay, before I move on, everybody okay with the killer of the soul concept? Or if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, anything, please. Now is the time.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. The way you explained is really, really good. I just was thinking that the people who are living in ignorance still in this particular world now, then most of them, they don't have the concept of God at all. They're just living for the sake of living, as Prabhupada often quoted, like living like animals, eating, drinking, meeting, and all that stuff. But then there are others as well who are like know what God is, but to them the God is just their order supplier, kind of. So are they also in the category of soul killer, or they are different from the soul killer?
So you said two categories. One who are just seeing Krishna as an order supplier.
And the other party doesn't have any concept of God at all.
Yeah. So even when you're seeing God as an order supplier, you are to some extent accepting the existence of God, right? Even though you are not fully looking at God as the true Bhagwan concept, you have not fully grasped that concept. But at least you are at a platform where you know that I'm not the one in control. You know,
yeah.
So that's the whole chapter of the whole 16th chapter is that way, right? So of Bhagavad Gita, demoniac personality. Who is a demoniac person? So Krishna is saying, there is pride in those people, arrogance, pride, dambho, darpo, vimanascha, krodha, parusham evacha, agyanam cha vijatasya, partha sampadim asurim. That's the fourth or fifth verse of the chapter. So there, all the qualities are indicating towards me being the doer, that I know what is right. I am right. I have become rich. Now I'm going to kill all my enemies and be richer tomorrow. I'll just enjoy with my family members. So it's the root of that mentality is me. I am the one in control. That is the root of a demoniac mentality person. So the first concept. So now looking at both the concepts individually. Okay, the first one you said, that person has no understanding of God. Okay, so now that lack of understanding could be intentional or it could be unknowingly. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Right, the Sukadev Goswami was an impersonalist. He didn't believe in a concept of that God is a form. So he, the moment he was born, he ran away. He said, no, I don't want anything to do with you. But then when he was going into the forest, Vyasadeva sent some of his disciples to chant mantras from Bhagavatam, right? And they were singing, right? Aho Bakiyam Stanakal Kutam. They are glorifying Putana. And so they are singing a verse about Putana. And Sukadev Goswami hears that and says, who is this person who gave the position to a demoness who came to kill him as a Dhatri Uchitam, as a nurse in the spiritual world? So he then came back to his father and then he heard the whole Bhagavatam and he became a personalist. So that is not intentional. So
Yes.
going back to the first category of people, if they are intentionally ignorant of Krishna, then it becomes demoniac. But if they just don't know, they are simple people, okay, hey, nobody came and told me about it,
Yeah.
so that is not demoniac then. That's just that's just unknowingly, right? That's just unknowingly. And that's why Krishna in the 9th chapter, Krishna points out, right, towards the end, apiche suduracharo bhajante mamananya bhag sadhu reva samantavya samavivasito isa. That there are some people who accidentally make mistakes. They fall down of the path, right? So Krishna does not consider them as enemies or does not kick them out. He says they're still, even though they're doing sudurachar, really bad work, but it's accidental and I still accept them. So they are okay. So it's just a way how those people, what their intention is. So that's the first category of people. Secondly, there are people, what was the second category? Sorry, I forgot.
They just think that Krishna or the Lord is their only
The
order supplier and nothing else.
So they are again in an ignorance because they don't understand the fully concept of Krishna. But at least they're at a position where they understand that I'm not the doer. So I wouldn't consider them in a demoniac personality, because they have some understanding that no. Yeah, I'm not the doer. I don't know who's the doer, but at least I am not the one. So they have started walking on a path of goodness. They're not fully taking the credit for themselves, that I'm the doer. Ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavana sukhi. 16th chapter, 14th verse, Krishna tells us that demoniac people think that I am God. Ishvaroham aham bhogi. I am the one who's going to enjoy everything. Ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavana sukhi. That I am the strongest. I'm siddha. I'm the most intelligent. So the concept of me, mine, I-ness is a very good indicator of demoniac propensity. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So
Okay.
related also one more addition to it is that, so that means those who are intentionally doing it are certainly the killer of the souls.
Yes.
And they perpetually live in the Asurya place. So in this life also, and then afterlife also, Prabhu?
Yes, that's what Krishna is saying. In this verse, we see, right, that where is it? Oh my.
And others still have a chance, kind
Right,
of.
so he's saying, and
So,
they enter into the planets known as. So the killer of the soul, they enter into the planets, means in the next life also you will enter in the planet, those darkness and ignorance. Yes.
So both way they are, I mean, this life also and the next life also, same thing for them.
They will be suffering. Yes.
Yes.
However, to understand, one thing I wanted to point out is that don't see this as a punishment from Krishna.
No.
It's merely that if the crime is big, the punishment also has to be big, right? So it's not like Krishna is now become their enemy. No, Krishna is nobody's enemy. But Krishna sometimes to correct a child, the father sends the child to a strict teacher. The father is not the enemy. The father is just, he knows that, oh my God, I tried to fix my child, but it's not possible. I have to send him to a stricter person. So same thing, Krishna sends people to lower planetary systems because he feels that they need some correction. They need some time out to think. That's the reason. But that's what is being said here.
Yeah, but this can be broken anytime, this state of darkness, right? If somebody enters into their life and
it can be.
okay, thank you.
And that is the quality of an Uttam Adhikari.
Yeah.
We all are Madhyam Adhikaris. Because Madhyam Adhikari is somebody who has faith on the scriptures, and he can convince some people, but the envious he cannot. He has to stay away from them, right? So that's that's what the 11th canto says about Madhyam Adhikaris, right? That Ishvare tadineshu balisheshu dushatshucha prema maitri kripopeksha ya karoti sa madhyama. That so the people who are envious, he stays away from them. He cannot fix them. But an Uttam Adhikari can come, and even people who are in a mode of ignorance can be pulled out of it by an Uttam Adhikari.
Yeah.
Like Prabhupada, right? He pulled people out of complete ignorance too. He made them pure souls and brahmanas.
Yeah, great example. Yeah.
But Madhyam Adhikari cannot do that. And we should not even try to do that. The Shastras are telling us not to do it. If there is somebody envious, you stay away from them.
Okay.
Let the experts deal with them. So that's why when we distribute books, there are so many people we meet that who are hardcore Christians, and they'll come and fight with us.
Yeah.
I don't fight with them. I just say, thank you very much. Okay, you keep your faith, whatever it is. But I try to distract. I pull myself away from them, because I cannot fix them. I cannot change them. That's not my
Yes.
my adhikar as of yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
that's
Prabhu.
yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. Anything else on anybody's mind, or we continue to move on?
Hare
We
Krishna.
can. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, you said the Canto 11, I think so, chapter 20, verse 17, right?
Mhm.
Regarding the definition of the demoniac person in relation to the killer of the soul. So you
Hmm.
said a human being who does not take the shelter of the spiritual master and is not following the scripture,
Hmm.
killing is basically killing the soul, right? Right, that is what you said, right?
So yes, well,
The
in a
spiritual desire in him, right?
yeah, in a broader sense, we
So
human beings have an extra capacity of consciousness. We can think, and that is why the Vedanta philosophy is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Athato means therefore, Brahma Jigyasa means now that you have a human body, inquire. But if I don't use this human body to inquire, I'm practically misusing the purpose of this human body. So I have completely degraded the purpose of this human body and also the soul that came into this human body. Yeah.
So my question was, if we categorize it in that sense, like taking shelter of spiritual master and for not following the Vedic scriptures, then 99% people are the one who fall in the category of killer of the soul, right?
Why do you say so?
Because how many people are the one who are following exactly as per the scriptures and living their life based on the guidelines that has been prescribed in the scriptures, or for that matter, taking the shelter of the spiritual master? And
Yeah.
then we are categorizing everybody who is not a Vaishnava or is not a devotee is a killer of the soul.
That's a good point you bring up. So understand that in that verse we read, Nirdeham Adhyam, Sulabham Sudurlabham, Labham Sukalpam, Guru Karnadharam. So there was one of a Guru Karnadharam. Then there was a mention of Mayanukulena Bhasvateritam. They were the favorable winds of scriptures.
Mhm.
In one sense, you can say scriptures are only what are there in India, Veda, like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. But in a broader sense, you can also include the Bible in a way as a scripture, right? There are many Christians who are really who are very focused, and they want to understand who God is. I have met so many Muslims who appreciate what Bhagavad Gita says, who are pure vegetarians. They don't want to. So they are taking the philosophy, they're taking the knowledge of the scriptures and living their lives. So they might be missing the aspect of having a guru, but then they are not completely off the target. They are using the favorable winds of scriptures to improve their life. So in a broader sense, if you look, the scriptures doesn't just mean the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. They can mean Quran. They can mean the Bible. And there are people who are following those books in a good way. There are people who are practicing Christianity, and they are still in a mode of goodness. So to give you another verse, first canto, second chapter, verse number 6 says that what's that verse now? That oh my God, I forgot the verse. I can open it up. I just slipping. I can't remember that. It's not coming to me. But let me open it. What that says that the human beings, what is the topmost thing, right? Or let me just open it up rather than I just mash it up. First canto, second chapter, verse number 6. Let me share my screen. So it says, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yatho bhakti radhokshaje ahitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. So what is the purpose of having a guru and following the scriptures? To attain loving devotional service unto the transcendental Guru, or to the Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted. So what is the quality? It has to be ahitukya pratihata. So that doesn't mean that only Vaishnavas can be unmotivated and uninterrupted. There are people who are practicing Christianity can be unmotivated and interrupted. They might be missing the aspect of the guru, and they might be falling short of the bigger picture. But that doesn't make them demoniac completely. They are not as they're in a mode of goodness, but they might not be in a divine mode. So did I kind of hit on to what you're saying? Did that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. So the folks who are completely atheist, they are
Yeah.
good human being. They
Yeah.
are philanthropist. They are good human being, but they don't believe in the concept of God.
Mm.
Are they demons?
But so again,
Demon is having the demoniac qualities.
yeah. So again, going back to what I was answering to Achyut Radhe Mataji, it depends on what your intentions are. If it is all about me, mine, if you are doing those, charity and all that with this mindset that oh, people will praise me, they'll glorify me, then it becomes demoniac. But then there might be people who are atheists or who don't have an understanding of the concept of God, but they are doing selfless service. They don't want anything in return. Right? Then that is not necessarily demoniac. So it all boils down to the intention of the person that defines whether the person is divine or demoniac. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, for example, Mother Teresa, she came and she treated people in Calcutta whom their own family members were didn't touch, leprosy patients. So she was doing charity work. She was doing, she opened hospitals and all that. So she was doing it selflessly. So whether she's a Christian or not, her selflessness makes her on a mode of goodness, on a platform of goodness.
God. Thank
So
you,
it
Prabhu.
all boils down to the intention. That is why our intentions are what matter. Bhavagrai Janardhan. That's what Krishna is. He looks at the intention in your heart. He doesn't look at. He doesn't worry so much about the action per se. He's more interested about what you're doing it with. So when somebody goes out and does charity with no desire for any personal gratification or adoration or glorification, Krishna notices that, and that adds on to his sukriti. And then that when that sukriti keeps accumulating, a time comes when that person comes in contact with a pure devotee, and then his or her life changes. So he's not in demoniac nature, but neither is he on that platform of divine. He's somewhere in between, mode of goodness probably. So I wouldn't push them in the demoniac way, in the path or demoniac group.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah,
You're
makes sense.
welcome. Anything else, anyone? Or let me come back to where the purport was. Okay, so let's move on to the third paragraph. Third paragraph is about how if we don't use our human birth, how our life is actually worse than animals. Okay, that's what Prabhupada, the essence of this third paragraph is. So what Prabhupada says here, there are two very good phrases I love. Modern soul-killing civilization. And he calls us as polished animals. And we all are, well, not you all, in general, other people, not you all. They're polished animals, right? Because it's a soul-killing civilization, as Prabhupada is saying. And what does he mean by that? So soul-killing civilization, how is it a soul-killing civilization? Somebody might come and argue, no, why is it a soul-killing civilization? We're doing so much good, we are so perfect, like everything is so good, there is so much scientific advancement, right? What Prabhupada is meaning here is that scientific advancement is nothing but furthering the animal propensity of humans, right? Yeah, we got a how do you say it? We sometimes live worse than animals, actually, right? Because animals, scientific advancement has changed the form, but it has not changed the purpose of our activities, right? Animals also, snarl and show their teeth when they are angry. We bring out our weapons when we are angry, right? Pigs go eat in a garbage and they're enjoying that food. Similarly, we are also enjoying food. Not we all are eating prasadam, so we are good. Like general, eating packaged food and fast food. This morning I was standing at my door and I saw this boy. Probably he must have been 7th or 8th grade. He was coming with a disposable plate and he had a burger on it. And that, it was a McDonald's burger. I could see there was a wrap on it of that. Just imagine 7 o'clock in the morning. What is he eating? Garbage. It's practically garbage. A meat that has been sitting in a freezer for probably months and he's eating it. So we are no better than animals, or they are no better than animals. So we all have animal propensities. And these animal propensities cannot be removed by scientific advancement. Right? So that's why Prabhupada calls it a soul-killing civilization. Even in this life, we are suffering, and in the next life, we will also suffer. Right? So sometimes we actually suffer more than animals, I just said. Right? For example, we human beings, we create famines, right? Famines. Every year, a lot of grain is thrown in the ocean because we cannot give it to some other country. There are rules and regulations, there are laws and all that nonsense. So there is just across the border, there might be people dying of hunger. Or in this part of the world, we are overeating. We are throwing away food. That is why in India, throwing away food is a very, we have never promoted. All growing up, kids are always taught, you can never throw food. So because we understand the value of it, right? Animals never take sleeping pills. they just sleep wherever they can. They sleep. They lie on the road and they sleep. Right? We human beings, we have soft beds, but we still can't sleep. Right? Animals don't suffer heartbreaks. We suffer heartbreaks because we put our sensual gratificatory desires on some other human being. Oh, this person can satisfy me, so I am in love with this person. It's not love, it's just lust. So we are afraid of our own species, right? We create boundaries, we create walls, we create borders. Animals are not afraid of their own species. So that in that way, humans actually suffer more than animals. Animals don't feel stressed, they don't get overworked. Animals don't commit suicide, they don't get addicted to things. So we have higher intelligence than animals, but we are still suffering. So there is something seriously wrong in the way we are living our lives. Right? That's what Prabhupada means here. That's what is the soul-killing civilization. And that's why Prabhupada is calling human beings as polished animals. Polished animals, right? We are practically living like, how they say it, bulls in a China-ware shop. Right? I don't have knowledge. I don't have humility. Right? I don't have tolerance. I'm in a very delicate world out there. I'm not sensitive to it. I don't see the subtlety in this world. I just go in, ram everything, break everything. Right? I'm out of alignment of this world. Not once again, not us in general. I'm speaking. We are greedy for when somebody becomes greedy for things in this world, we forget our nature as a soul. Right? We start living below our dignity of a soul. Right? It's the oldest trick in the book of this world, that being attracted to matter, and then I start living below my dignity, and it causes a pain in my heart and mind. Right? There is this disharmony that's happening, right? Because I'm supposed to be doing something, but I'm doing completely opposite, right? And that is why if we see everything as Ishavasyam, then that tendency goes away. Then I don't see things for sensual enjoyment, right? Um, so human life is actually meant for tapa. Right? That's what Rishabh Dev says in the 5th canto. Nayam deho deha bhajanir loke kashan kaman arhate vij bhajamye. Tapo divyam putra ka ye na satvam shuddhaye. He's talking to his own sons. He's saying that you have got this human body. Don't work like an ass, dogs and hogs. Don't live like that. Do austerity and attain a divine position of devotional service. Right? That's what he's saying. It's not easy to live as humans. There's a lot of false idea going around. We should not fall trap to it. We should make a. That is why it's very important for us to have a discipline in life. Working from a list. I have to do these things in my day to day. After that, I'll go fall for my sense gratification. So have a plan always before the mind makes a plan for you. Make a list. 10 pages of reading, 16 rounds of chanting, hearing kirtan, playing mridanga, whatever you think is worth of it. Human life is meant for improvement. And a cause for weakness of the heart is lack of discipline. So the easiest practical and the most practical thing we can do is bring discipline in our lives. And if we miss discipline, then everything goes downhill. So keep coming back to discipline. Right? And we as human beings are the ones who are creating the most imbalance in this society. That's the worst part of it. We impersonalize everything. Right? As I was saying earlier, when we impersonalize things, we see them as resources. Resources I can use, I can exploit, I can destroy. But when I see a personal, I give a personal approach to something, then the natural response becomes relationship. For me to use something, I have to first depersonalize it. In a war, to win over another enemy, we depersonalize the other enemy, right? That's what people do, right? That's what Pakistan, sorry, not Pakistan, any country. They depersonalize their enemies, right? Similarly, to fulfill lust, women in this world are objectified, right? They're not seen as human beings. They're seen as objects to enjoy. That's depersonalization. So that's the way we are living this life. And that's what Prabhupada is teaching us. Don't live a soul-killing life. Don't become a polished animal. That's what Prabhupada is teaching us in this purport here, right? And then he goes to tell us that this again, the verse I was quoting from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 1. Lord Rishabh is talking to his sons. Nayam Deho Deha Bhajan Loke verse. Don't live like asses. That's what Prabhupada is telling us. We have been given this body, discharge the duties according to this body, and move forward, move upwards. Don't go downwards. Right? And then lastly, Prabhupada says that don't solve your problems piecemeal. Go to Krishna and surrender to him and say, Krishna, this is my problems. I cannot solve it. I'm offering them to you. Please take care of it. I am completely giving it up to you. Just like bankruptcy, right? When we are not able to manage our financials, we just go into the court and say, I am filing bankruptcy. Then nobody comes and bothers me. So similarly, file for material bankruptcy and go to Krishna and say, Krishna, no, you take care of everything. I can't do it. So solve all the material problems in one go by surrendering to Krishna. That's what Prabhupada is telling us to do. Solving all the problems of material life. Okay. So I rest my case here. Hopefully this made sense to you. Anything, any comments, questions, anything before we wrap up? Okay, nothing. Then we can wrap up and finish it off here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for again a very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bhakti.
You're putting the slides, right?
I'll put them there. Actually, what I've been doing, I just made one slide deck for the whole Isopanishad instead of making separate slides. So I can upload it, but then it'll keep changing also, just to let you know.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you.